It was a cold winter morning when 8-year-old Arjun stood barefoot on the wet pavement, staring at the steam rising from a tea vendor's stall. His clothes were torn, his hair matted, and his stomach growled like a caged animal. He had been awake since before dawn, searching for discarded bread or half-eaten rotis near the garbage bins. But today, even the trash seemed empty. Arjun was an orphan. His father had died in an accident when he was just 3, and his mother had followed a year later from illness and hunger. Since then, the streets had been his home, the sky his roof, and loneliness his only constant companion. He had learned to survive on scraps, run from bullies, and sleep curled up in dark corners where the wind couldn't find him. That morning, as the scent of fresh tea drifted toward him, Arjun's eyes watered, not just from the cold, but from the cruel reminder that warmth and comfort were for others, not for boys like him. The tea seller glanced at him once, then looked away, busy serving paying customers. People passed by, their faces buried in scarves, their footsteps fast and purposeful. No one stopped. No one asked if he had eaten. But fate, as cruel as it can be, sometimes hides its blessings in unexpected places. That day, an old man with a long white beard and kind, weathered eyes noticed him. He wore a faded wool shawl and carried a small bag of groceries. He stopped, crouched down, and said, "Boy, have you eaten?" Arjun shook his head, afraid to speak. The old man smiled gently, bought him 2 hot rotis and a cup of tea, and placed them in his hands. "Eat slowly. The world rushes enough. Don't join its madness," he said softly. They sat on a bench while Arjun devoured the food. The old man watched him, not with pity, but with a kind of quiet respect, as if seeing the boy's fight to survive. When Arjun finished, the man asked, "Do you want to change your life?" It was a strange question. Arjun didn't answer. He had learned long ago that people often offered hope they never intended to give. But the man continued, "I cannot give you riches. I cannot erase your past. But I can teach you something no one can steal: knowledge." That evening, Arjun followed the old man to a small library in the back of a dusty shop. The man's name was Iqbal, a retired school teacher who spent his days teaching street kids to read and write. The books smelled of old paper and ink, and the wooden shelves leaned with age. For Arjun, it was a different world, a world without shouting, without cold winds, without hunger. A world where words became keys to doors he had never known existed. For weeks, Arjun came to the library every evening. He learned the alphabet, then words, then whole sentences. Iqbal taught him not just reading and writing, but lessons about life, perseverance, honesty, and the power of self-belief. "Your circumstances," Iqbal would say, "are like the weather. They change. But your will, that is the fire that must not go out." Arjun began to dream again, not of riches, but of becoming someone who could stand tall, someone who could help others the way Iqbal had helped him. But life, as it often does, tested him. One rainy night, a group of older boys cornered him, stole his little savings, and tore his books. Arjun sat under a tin roof, clutching the ruined pages, tears mixing with rain. He wanted to give up. What was the point of trying when the world seemed determined to push him down? The next morning, he walked into the library, expecting Iqbal to be disappointed. Instead, the old man simply handed him a broom. He said, "Clean the floor, Arjun." Confused and a little hurt, Arjun began sweeping. After a few minutes, Iqbal spoke. "Life will always leave dirt in your path. Poverty, betrayal, loss. You cannot stop it, but you can choose to keep cleaning, to keep making space for light to enter. Those words became the seed of Arjun's strength. He worked harder than ever. He read every book in the library he could find, practiced writing until his fingers ached, and started helping younger street kids with their studies. He still slept on the streets, but his mind no longer lived there. Years passed. At 16, Arjun earned a scholarship to a local school through a charity that had noticed his dedication. At 18, he topped his class. At 25, he graduated from university with honors in engineering. On the day of his graduation, Arjun stood before hundreds of people, wearing a crisp suit someone had lent him. His voice trembled as he spoke. "I was once a boy who begged for food, a boy who thought the world had no place for him. But an old man taught me to believe and to clean the dirt no matter how often it returned. Today I stand here because someone believed in me before I could believe in myself. If you meet a child with nothing, give them something no one can steal, your kindness and your time." The crowd rose to their feet in applause. In the front row, Iqbal sat with tears in his eyes, his frail hands clapping softly. Arjun didn't stop there. He started his own foundation to teach street kids for free, building small libraries across the city. Every time he saw a child pick up a book for the first time, he remembered the day he had sat on a bench, barefoot and hungry, and an old man had offered him not just food, but a future. One evening, years later, Arjun walked back to that same tea stall where his story had begun. The vendor was still there, older now, his hair streaked with gray. Arjun bought a dozen cups of tea and handed them to a group of street kids nearby. One boy looked at him with the same wary eyes Arjun had once worn. Arjun knelt down and smiled. "Do you want to change your life?" Moral of the story: your past does not define your future. What defines you is the courage to rise again, even when life has knocked you down 100 times. Sometimes, all it takes is one act of kindness to change the course of an entire life. And when that kindness finds you, let it not end with you. Pass it on.
If this story touched your heart, share it with someone you love. Maybe it'll help them. And if you believe stories like these deserve to be heard, please like, comment, and subscribe to Life Lessons Library. Your one click keeps these stories alive.